I'm going to be sharing with you some tips for just managing, it's embracing tenderheadedness with locks, because it's a different space. It's a different space, I would say. It's not the same as being tenderheaded with loose hair. Like, locks are an experience. And if this is your first time joining live, I do want to let you know, my name is Jocelyn Renee. You can think of me as your digital loctician. I strive to help you cultivate the healthiest set of locks possible. And we have conversations every week, like this is the 50th one, every week. If you have questions about your lock journey, if you have questions or concerns, definitely feel free to pop those into the chat. And so what I first wanted to do with this topic is just kind of define what tenderheadedness is and make sure that you and I are talking about the same thing, because tenderheadedness, as it relates to your scalp is trying to tell you that there's a problem, is not the same as I'm just not touching my hair that often, and when you do touch it, it hurts real bad. So it's two different types of tenderheadedness that I want you to be aware of, and not feel like, oh, because my scalp is tender, it's okay, and there really be a problem. Okay. So when we're talking about being tenderheaded, it really starts when you're young, when you're a child. For most people, it starts there, because when we're kids, our parents just leave our hair. Maybe our parents, moms, they're like, I don't do hair. Hair's not my ministry, so I'm not even dealing with no type of hair. They just let your hair be for a really long time. Your scalp, therefore, does not even process manipulation in a non-traumatic way, shall I say. And so if you have a baby, like there's any new moms out there, touch your kid's head every single day. Just, hey, rub it a little bit, just kind of give it a little bit massage. Those things will help make sure your child, when it gets to the age when you start manipulating it, they're not screaming at you. Okay. But for those of us who it's too late, we've already grown up, we're already tenderheaded now. You could also become tenderheaded when you get your locks or start locks. I was not, when I had my relaxer, you could yank my hair, you could braid it, twist it, pull it, all types of which ways. I didn't care. As soon as I started locks, I was like, oh, please stop. I need to take a pill. I need something. My head is hurting so bad. But think about how much we did to our head when our hair was loose, natural. You wash day every week, twist outs, braid outs, updos, barley twists, like all the things. And then we get locks. We're like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna manipulate it like once a month, every 2-3 weeks. That's all I'm gonna do. And your scalp is like, whoa, 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 whoa. What are you doing? So please know that it's common. You're not alone. Definitely not alone, Lex. People do become tenderheaded once they start locks and start their lock journey. And so that's one way that you can have or experience tenderheadedness. It just kind of developed over time. You can also have a tender scalp. So tenderheadedness and a tender scalp, particularly in certain areas, or if you do certain things or eat certain foods, those can be signals from your scalp that something internally is wrong. So get those checked out. But if your scalp is just tender when you touch it, try to retwist it, or somebody else tries to retwist it, you're tenderheaded, okay? Not that you have a tender scalp. But listen, let me give you these tips, because I don't want you to experience that pain for those of you that are tenderheaded. The first thing I would highly recommend that you do is to pop your locks often. Okay, who knows what popping your locks means? Press a 1 if you know what that means. Press a 2 if you're like, pop locks? What is that? I've never heard pop and dropping locks. That don't even make any sense. So 1 if you know what that means, or 2 if you've never heard of it. So what popping your locks means is to go along your parts, wherever your natural part is, and make sure locks or hairs from one side are not in the lock on the other side. And if they are, you might have to pop them. Now, I see all the ones, everyone knows what it is. Press a 3 if you can do lock popping while your hair is dry, or press a 4 if you should pop your locks when your hair is wet. You want to pop your locks often to keep them where they need to be, but you don't want to pop your locks unless your hair is dampened or wet. You've applied some type of moisturizer, okay? Please, please don't be popping your locks while your hair is dry, okay? So when you pop your locks often or keep them separated, keep them where they need to be, what's going to happen is that when you go to groom your hair or retwist your hair, you're less likely to have to like rip through the hairs. You can more easily detangle the locks or get to the grooming. And so you don't have to feel the effects of your tenderheadedness too much. So definitely pop your locks frequently. And I would say like a couple times a week. So most people can get away with only doing it maybe like once a week, once every 2 weeks. If you're tenderheaded, like every 2 to 3 days, make sure them locks are not creeping. And then also, you know, for those of you that have fine hair, like curly stuff up here, all this loose hair, you want to make sure you're keeping that separated, okay? That'll really help. You also want to make sure that you're keeping your locks hydrated, you know, drinking your water. Make sure you are doing your steam treatments. Make sure you are using either herbal moisturizers or conditioning moisturizers if your hair is feeling dehydrated already. So when your hair is moisturized or hydrated is truly the word. When your hair is hydrated, when your roots are separated, you then can make sure that you're styling your hair wisely. And I say wisely because there are some styles that if you're tenderheaded, you don't want to get, like updos, things that are like causing your hair to be like bound. You might want to leave those alone, okay? Or not do them as often. You also can consider things like 2-strand twists, where you're just taking 2 locks, or if you have really small locks, 4 locks, putting them together and making sure that it's not too tight. Like I found that braids on people that are tenderheaded, they don't go together. Twist is usually the way to go, a lot less tension than braids. So when you're styling, make sure you're doing things that are not going to cause too much tension at your roots, or that are not going to over manipulate or cause your hair so much tension with the braid down, how it's bounded. All right, so style wisely, pop your locks, and keep your hair hydrated. And then make sure you're controlling your roots. You do know, or I hope you know, that if you have fine hair, or if you have your tenderheadedness, you're experiencing some tenderheadedness, the more you can control the roots. So like taking the loose hairs, those are the hairs that tend to creep, that require you to pop your locks often. If you can take those hairs and just wrap those around your root area, or do some finger wrapping right at the root section, minimizing how much your hair can just creep everywhere will also help to minimize how much of your tenderheadedness you're experiencing. Because I know for me, if I let those one hair can be out of place with another lock, and I just like, oh, pain is radiating through my scalp. So you gotta keep your locks controlled, okay? So those are some of the tips that I wanted to share with you with tenderheadedness. So again, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Make sure you have a good evening. Stay hydrated, and I will